Hello. Before I start, can I just throw quick statistics here? Can I just ask you to raise your hand if you speak English? Very good. Could you raise your hand if you speak Polish? Mówić po polsku, proszę. Dziękuję. And if you speak any other language? Fantastic. It's a pleasure to be such a cosmopolitan crowd. My name is Jakub, and I have a pleasure and a privilege to be a member of the Sikorski Polish Club for a few months now, and I'm delighted to see so many faces tonight. I believe this is greatly because of the man who's sitting next to me on the left-hand side, and fantastic, fantastic event I think we're going to have tonight. Just want to say a few words before we start. What about the schedule? I'll say that in Polish later as well. So the schedule for tonight will be the following. We'll start off with some poems of Kirsty, and then we move on with poems by Basia and then Martin again. There will be some interlaps as well. Just to let you know that there will be some breaks. The breaks will be just entirely for yourself, just to kind of have some time to maybe sit back and reflect on what you just heard. And also, if you feel like maybe having a break for yourself, it would be the best if you leave when the poem is finished, and then when you're coming back, just if you could listen from outside the doors when the poem is finished again, and only then enter, so you don't enter and or leave during the reading. And there also will be music assisting us throughout the night. It should take approximately 1 hour and a half, with the last half an hour spent on question and answers. Now I'll just pass it on to Martin then. Thank you very much. In Polish, sorry. To wyglądało w ten sposób, że będą przerwy. Po każdym występie artysty będzie moment na refleksję, także można sobie pozwolić na przerwę, jeżeli ktoś chce wyjść, zejść na dół, czy w tym momencie będzie chciał ktoś wrócić, to prosilibyśmy, żeby to zrobić wtedy, kiedy wiersz jest już skończony. I to by było na tyle. Dziękuję ślicznie.
Thank you very much, Jakub, and thank you everyone for coming. It's lovely to see such a big and large attendance. I think probably breaks records for poetry readings in Glasgow. I think a special thanks to the Consul General, Thomas Travis, for coming. It's very much appreciated. One thing Jakub forgot to say, you can shout it in Polish maybe, is mobile phones to silent or off could be useful, especially those of us who are doing readings. I'm very grateful to the Sikorski Club and to everyone. I won't name them all, but a whole group of people worked together to make this happen. We're hopefully streaming it live on the internet just now as well, and it's being recorded by film. So as you know, Poland has a huge global diaspora, and we know some people in America who are wanting to watch this, in Canada and in Australia. So there's an interesting mix here of a small group here, but a wider range of people who for whom this theme of love and loss and Siberia is so important to their hearts, that they want to share it. In 2 days' time, on the 25th of October, it will be the 69th anniversary of the death of my grandmother, Janina Chupka Stepek, who was buried in Tehran. She died of starvation, and she died aged 40. Her 3 children survived her, and I wanted to have this event not purely from a personal perspective to commemorate her life and her death, but also for the wider Polish loss that the word Siberia represents, and beyond that still the sheer scale of the suffering of that generation of Poles, the almost 50-year consequence of that, and then a celebration of the liberation and the freedom that we've seen in Poland these last 20 years. So all of that wrapped into one, in a sense, is what I wanted to exemplify in a sort of microcosm. The other thing I wanted to come across was just, to me, the very heartfelt and beautiful relationship between Scotland and Poland. And it's exemplified by, I think, the readers here who I'll introduce shortly. But it's also exemplified by my father marrying my mother, and there's so many examples of Poles and Scots who have married both of that generation and latterly as well. And I think it's just this is a good occasion to remember loss, but also to remember the renewal and the strengthening of friendships. For those of you who don't know, in a nutshell, Poland was invaded near simultaneously by the Nazis and the Soviet Union in 1939. And in February the 10th, 1940, the first of 4 major waves of pre-planned deportations by the Red Army of Poles from eastern Poland, known as the Kresy, to Siberia and beyond other parts of the Soviet Union occurred. Estimates vary, but anything between 600,000 and 1.7 million were taken away, and we know that 3/4 probably perished, and some were stuck in the Soviet Union for life, and a small percentage managed to be freed, get down to freedom, and freedom was across the Caspian Sea in Persia by 1942. And it was by great good fortune that my grandmother and my father and his 2 sisters, Zosha and Danka, managed to be amongst those people who got across and got to their freedom. Unfortunately, that's where it stopped for my grandmother. But the 3 children survived the war, and are still alive. So that's what we're looking at just now in terms of the basis of this event. Those people who came through Siberia and survived, many of them came via Scotland, certainly Britain. Others were displaced as orphans to parts of Africa, Mexico, New Zealand, India, and that creates a very unique diaspora, and a unique diaspora of next generations as well, of my generation. So I'm on a Yahoo group where there are people from New Zealand, from Sweden, from Canada, to Mexico, to Argentina, to all parts of the USA, who are all children of survivors of Siberia. And that gives you something special and some bond. And this is for them as much as others, which is why I'm so grateful. It's being streamed, and why I'm so grateful it's being recorded so we can put it on YouTube and share that way. So this is for all our families, those we've loved, those we've lost. And to give the theme that wider universal theme rather than just a Polish thing, when we discussed how we wanted to make this event happen, we decided we wanted to share it beyond just the stuff I've written, and we were very fortunate to have 2 other great poets whose work you'll hear and you can make of your own perspective. But to my mind, they're so moving. Christy Williamson, who will be on in a second, and I'll introduce Christy in due course, and then we'll have Barbara Basha-Palka. The poems that they'll read are their own personal feelings, reflections, contemplations, but the themes are the same universal ones that emerged from the Siberian experience. It's love, it's loss, it's reflection, it's contemplation, and it's hope. And I think you'll see that as we get through the event. I also got Marcin, who has been kind enough to work with Jakub, who's been kind enough to work with an original third person's translations of my work. So we have 3 different collaborators in terms of trying to get what I've written into a Polish that represents not just the words but the feelings that we've put across. And Marcin's going to do the translations and the interpretations for some of my work. I'll mention something later. I was going to mention it just now, I'll mention something later, but I'm really grateful to them for doing this. And this is part of a wider theme that we're trying to do. I've got my soon-to-be publisher, Etta, with us here as well. We managed to cobble together the capability of putting this out, the works that I've done out as a bilingual edition, and whether it's before Christmas or after Christmas, well, that's touch and go just now. But I think it'll be something special, not because it's my work, but because of what the work emerges from, which is the pity and the compassion and the love that is inherent in the words, and to have that bilingually for the Polish and Scottish community, I think will be really special. Finally, I just want to say that I'm not sure if I should say I hope you enjoy this evening, because it's quite a sombre, deep theme, but I hope that it's going to be a memorable experience for you. And on that note, I'd like to start the occasion with introducing Christy Williamson. I met Christy a few years ago, and we've done some readings together in Glasgow, and his work is quite extraordinary. You'll make of that yourself. But Christy delivers in Shetland, and with a word about what's the right word for someone who delivers in Shetland, and the word is Shetland. So he's going to put his poems in that dialect, in that language, and that you might find that sometimes a little difficult to get all the meaning of the literal meaning of the words, but I'm absolutely no doubt you'll get right across the meaning emotionally of his wonderful work. So I'd like to introduce Christy Williamson for you. Thank you.